Hey, hey,
Hello.
man. How you doing? You right?
Yeah, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks. Not too bad at all. How's the body feeling?
Oh, all right, yeah, yeah. Good, good.
Good stuff. Everyone in bed now?
Yeah, Eva's just about to pop up there now, so Eva two are fast asleep, hopefully.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, good stuff. No, they did so well. Did they feel it the next day after their walk?
To be honest, they didn't. I wanted to do another long walk, but
Did you?
yeah.
Only if Rach turned up, of course. Rach would have had to be there.
Obviously, yeah, yeah. Rachel had to be there, yeah.
Oh, quality. No, good stuff. Good stuff. So have you had many questions then, or I can definitely divulge. I've had some good player movements this week, so hopefully we look even stronger now. I hope.
That's good news. That's good news. Yeah, I've had a few people kind of send things in, and I've obviously put a few of my own things in there, and we'll just kind of go through and have a bit of a chat if that's all right.
Of course, yeah, no problem at all.
Let's just rewind a couple of months. Lockdown. How kind of did you find lockdown? How was it for you?
Do you know what? It wasn't too bad. Like I quite enjoyed like a bit of time. I had more time with my son, which with work and with the season I don't normally get. So that was a blessing. And then I did actually get the virus the first week of lockdown. So the
Yeah.
Friday of the first week, I didn't feel great, and I thought I felt better by Sunday. And then I was just wiped out for 4 or 5 days, and then I went to the hospital, had to get tested because I had some rashes and whatnot, and they said, "Oh, it looks like you've got it, but just isolate again." And then
Mm.
I started actually feeling fine by the Wednesday, but that kicked me in a little bit. But it I lost a tiny bit of weight from that, and I was able to keep my fitness up after. So a lot of running and our work were great. They gave us some weights to use at home and some body pump DVDs. So I feel in better shape now than I did pre. And then it's just, I still was working full time dealing with my American recruitment, which is part of my main job. So kept busy, but switching between that and still trying to keep my eye on basketball because it's been that long since I've been on a court, maybe 6 months coming up, being on a court. So just making sure I keep up to date and just read different reviews, listen to different podcasts, and look at the personnel we've got coming in and make sure that give the players the best opportunity to be successful. So I'm just excited to get back into a more normal way of life.
Mm. Let's hope so.
Yeah, definitely.
So where were you from originally?
So I was born in Northampton and I lived there, I think, for 6 months. And then my dad worked for the RSPB and he moved around quite a bit. So we moved up to Edinburgh for 2 years. So I lived on Dalkeith Road and then we moved down to Worthing. And I'm not sure, I must have been there for 4-ish years. And then we came up to Hexham when I was 6 year old. I joined in year two. And then I was there from 6 to 16. I loved Hexham. So I classify Hexham as my home.
Mhm.
And I would say I'm a Geordie, even though, posh Geordie. And then I went to Middlesbrough College to play basketball for Paul Douglas and Kieran Raftopoulos at a really good academy at the time. We had Kieran Achara, who was the GB captain for a while. He came for 1 year, and some really good players come through. So I was fortunate to do that. Then came back to Newcastle for a year, then down to Brighton for my uni. So pretty much all over, and then settled back up here. I think when I was about 23 or 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So did you have like a basketball upbringing? Like your childhood, was it?
Uh, no, no, not really. My dad was big into rugby. He played rugby at a decent level and did quite a bit of running. And then I played football and I was pretty good. And I went to a lot of the Newcastle United camps. I got asked to go to some trials down in Long Benton, and I would have been 11 or 12. And I could see the game pretty well. And I can't remember football now, to be honest, but I could see the game well. I was pretty decent. And then I went down to Long Benton to these trials, and the kids were just bigger, tougher, harder. I'm coming from Hexham where I'll have a smoked salmon sandwich in the morning, so these kids didn't have anything. So it was I got a bit of a kicking really, and I came back to my dad. And I was like, I hated that. That was horrible. So, and I just didn't really like the whole atmosphere in football. I thought it was bad. I was playing Sunday league, and if I was a left back, which no one wanted to be, and like people were like, oh, if you make a mistake, the way people talk to people, I think is disgusting in football personally. So I just like, no, I don't want to do that. And no one really played basketball at the time. And there was some courts were built by Adidas at my local high school, which was up the road. So I started doing that. And then someone said, oh, there's a club here. You could join that if you want to. And I went down and I fell in love with it from there. And it was, I was really fortunate. We had about a lot of the old school people from Hexham like got us into it. They were about 5, 6 years older than us, so we used to get like bullied on the playground. But it was really good for myself and my friend Dave, who was an assistant coach of mine about 3 years ago, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. He played for England. He played on the same team as Lawal Deng. You know, they really sort of pushed us when we were playing there. So it was from that point on. And then I think I was about 14 when I started like trying to play National League. And there was a guy called Paul Douglas who used to play for the Newcastle Comets at the time. And Newcastle supported him to set up his PDSD out of Gateshead Stadium, where there were tons of players. And like, you know, I look back at some of those people who were there. A lot of them went to the States. A lot of them played professionally. And that was just a really good experience. And I never knew what to expect from Dougie, but I'm really fortunate that he was my first coach. He taught me a lot and taught me how to run through brick walls, and I loved that experience. And it was him who I followed down to Middlesbrough when he set up the academy down there. So that's how I got into it all. Yeah, it's
What was
quality.
it like Middlesbrough then? You're saying like Kieran Achara, and like what was it like being with those individuals?
Oh, yeah, it was unbelievable. So the first year, I was probably 12th man, like on the bench, and we had Kieran Achara, who obviously played GB. We had three guys from London: Carl Latham-Henry, Marlon Henry, and Williams Amope, who all played for London Lions. After that, two of them went to the States and came back and played. So they were awesome. Then we had some guys from Birmingham, Michael Gale. All of these guys played for England. Michael Gale played for Birmingham Bullets. His brother played as well. We had a guy called Wayne Robinson, who was like the mafia of the team. He just didn't take any crap from anyone, and he would push us all the whole time. We had a guy called Keith Jarrett, who was an unbelievable athlete at that time. There was like Midnight Madness and North v South, like a Battle of the Boards, a lot of stuff where these guys were well known for being great players, great athletes. So it was great for me to like, I would never have got the ability to play against people like that if I'd stayed in Hexham. My parents weren't too happy. They moved to Hexham because of the Queen Elizabeth High School. It was like ranked in the top 10 in schools at the time. So when I said I wanted to go from there down to Middlesbrough to a college that was failing on Ofsted, they weren't too keen on it. But then my uncle is quite high up, and he teaches or he taught English. And he was like, look, if your son knows what he wants to do, then you should allow him to follow that passion, because so many people at 16 don't really know what they want to do, that if he can manage that, and, you know, teaching wherever you go, you know, he obviously has a better insight into teaching than my parents did. So, and I'm pleased he had that talk. I wouldn't have thought he would have done, to be honest. I would have thought he would have told me today, but that was a blessing, and I absolutely loved everything there. In my second year, I'm pretty sure Dougie was still there, but then Creon took over. And they're both very knowledgeable coaches, both very different in the styles they use. And, you know, I enjoyed playing for Creon a lot as well. Got very close with him and his family, and still keep in touch. And obviously he's the coach down at Surrey, and has done a great job there on the limited budget that they have. But, you know, a really, really good guy. So fortunate to learn from him. And of course, at that time, Teesside, like the Mohawks, were in their infancy. They had like Ralph Bucci, who was one of the best players to play in EBL 1, and went from there to Greece, and it would always bounce between the top league and the second league. He was basically the import that would get a team promoted, and then he would go back to the league because they would offer him more money, get that team promoted. So, you know, there was people like him, EJ Harrison, who played at Glasgow for a while, was on that team, and then obviously Tony Hansen, who unfortunately passed away last year. He coached the team. He played at UConn, and just to be around all these basketball minds was great for me. You know, to pick up different things and like, you know, hopefully again use some of the stuff I learned in coaching. I'll never forget. So Dougie was incredibly fiery. He was very resentful of the fact he didn't get a contract to play for the Comets one year. He felt it was because they prioritized Americans. Most other people think it was because he wasn't good enough at that point to play in the league. But he definitely had a chip on his shoulder. We played a game down in Sheffield against Sheffield, or whatever they were called at the time, like juniors, under 16s. And his halftime talk, his halftime team talk was berating us, and he threw a chair across the changing room. And I'll never forget that. And it wasn't at anyone, but I'll never forget that. And then I obviously thought, when I started coaching at Brighton Uni, that's pretty much a good way to get your players' attention. So I threw one, and it didn't work at all, and I had to pay damages. So I thought after that, maybe I don't use all of the stuff that I learned from Dougie.
Yeah, I was going to ask, kind of, so working with all these different coaches and playing for them, how much does that influence your own coaching? Like how much other people's stuff have you kind of used? Yeah,
I think everyone, like, I think luckily that the more people I've worked with, the like you pick ideas from everyone. So Dougie was like my first coach, and like I'll always hold him in such high esteem. And he was a great motivator. You just wanted to go out and fight for him, so it didn't really matter what was said. And like my parents at the time, as a 14, 15-year-old, weren't too keen on the language he would use, but like it got the job. For me, it got the job done. It motivated me, and I wanted to work as hard as I possibly could, to play for him. And then Creon, who sort of took over the following year at Middlesbrough, was very different, like very soft-spoken. Both of them knew the game well. And then, because he had a more humanistic approach, or, more caring approach in some respects, then again, I like that style. They were pretty much my first two. And then since then, I've been fortunate to work with different coaches through the GB in England setup. My first experience with England was with a guy called Jesse Suzanne, and I was the strength conditioning coach at the England 15s at the time. And I really liked, coaching a national team is very different to coaching like a season team, because you've got you got a pre-season, you can work on things specifically for the next team, and you've got a lot of time to work through it. Whereas in a national team environment, especially with GB or England, because unfortunately budgets aren't there, you maybe have a week prep, which isn't long enough, and then you go into like a week-long tournament. So like it's a very different style. But I thought Jesse did a really good job of like planning it exactly what he wanted to do. Even if I felt as a coach, you feel that you have to stay on a certain area because you haven't quite got it, or all these 15-year-olds at a camp haven't quite got it, you have to be very strict with timing to say, no, we need to move on, because if these people can't get it, they're probably not going to make the final cut in the initial camps, and we need to make sure we put all the principles in. So I really enjoyed that side, and I respect Jesse a lot for what he has done there and what he did with Medway. I felt he should have had an opportunity higher up on the England like quality. He did 15s for years. He should have been put at 16s or 18s, in my opinion. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way for him. And then obviously Chema, the head coach of GB Women, he is such first of all, like a fantastic human being, a great guy, and so knowledgeable. And I learned so much in my 2 and a bit years with him with GB 20s. And then fortunately, he selected me to be a Commonwealth assistant with him. I just learned so much from him, and definitely basketball, but like more how to deal with people, like the little touches he puts on, whether it was our under-20s or our senior team, like the things he would do, he would go above and beyond, and he genuinely cared, which I think is huge in any sport really, but definitely in female sports. And that love he has for everyone is like reciprocated in the fact that they want to play for him and they want to do well. And that's why the GB team have done so well, in my opinion, is because he truly loves the country, loves the players, puts all of his trust in them, and they reciprocate that. So he's great. And then I always have to talk about Mark Stuttle, because he's one of my biggest influences in the Northeast, probably, in my opinion, and it's only my opinion. He's one of the best coaches in the country. What he's done, what he's achieved, the way he goes about it, what he's done to improve himself in terms of doing his own masters, doing the FECC, the intricacies he puts into it. And he's my biggest critic, but I love that, because there's too many people who just will say, oh, you did that well. And I know after I think I've had a good game, he'll say, why did you do that? Or you shouldn't shout at the refs in this way. And I always tell him on that one, he shouts at them far worse than me. But he's been phenomenal to have up here and be in my corner. And I know he's excited. And I'm excited to see him do big things down at Teesside this year.
I know we had him on to do a Q&A at one point. He spent a lot about talking about you and like how kind of in high regards he regards.
Yeah, he'll say some things, and then he hammers me for my hairline, hence the reason I wear hats. So yeah, he likes to treat me mean, but no, he's one of my best friends for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, someone's just saying that you don't shout at refs. I mean, what's that all about?
I've definitely changed. Like this year, I only had one technical, and it was down in Wales, and he's a really good ref, Gavin Williams, and he apologised, said, "Oh, maybe I gave you a bit too quick." I mean, I was being a little bit sarcastic, but I was talking to Anya at the time, saying like I didn't think it was foul, but no, I've definitely got better. I used to be terrible, and the referees don't get paid much, definitely compared to other countries, and we've got some really good referees up here, and I think it's so hard. I'll say this now, and then my first game back, if it's terrible, I'll let them know. But but I try not to. There's so many more things that can influence a game, like myself and the players. So I try to keep that. I think I'm definitely getting a little bit softer as I as I moved through the years, that's for sure. And especially if it was Jules that said Jules at Helman, like she saw me at my worst. I used to have to tell her to be quiet as well because she would shout at the refs from the side when I'm coaching the under-13s team. So maybe we both learned from each other.
You mentioned the Commonwealth experience just before. What was that like for you?
Oh yeah, it was phenomenal. I was really like blessed and fortunate to be selected by Chema. He likes to keep his same um, his same group. Like he doesn't like his group to be very big. He wants to keep his coaches close, and he has a really good assistant who was a great player in Spain, and she couldn't do the Commonwealth because of the time of year and her job. So he said, look, we'd worked together twice at the 20s, and he said, look, I want you. So that was really huge, and I remember I went straight from we had a Bucks final against Durham, not last year because it got cancelled the year before we won, so it was 3 years ago, and we lost by 1 or 2. We had a bit of a couple of bad plays at the end. Cara, who was a great player for us for 3 years, she definitely got fouled twice, but the referees didn't want to call it, so I actually went ape on that one. But there was other things we could have done in the game where it shouldn't have been down to the last play, but it was what it was. So I remember leaving there feeling like devastated. I had such a great team. It was one of my favorite players that's come to the club, Ali Gorels, last year. Would have been nice for her to win, that championship. There were some other girls who'd been in the program for a while, and it was just, a bit of a tough loss to have by 1 or 2 points where it was so close. And going down to the Commonwealth, I felt so down and depressed, and even some of the guys were there, some players that you look up to, like the coaches were there. And then as soon as I got on the plane, I literally forgot all about it, and I was just so immersed in the whole experience. Like I'd never traveled to Australia before, so basketball's taken me so many countries, so that was a huge thing in itself. And just the relationship that, like, the dynamic that Chema can build with the group, with the other coaches, like Vanessa was great there. We had like a really tight team. It was such an experience, and I'm so thankful for it. And the fact we did as well as could be expected, and probably did a better job against Australia than most, especially as their centre. I've completely forgotten her name now. One of the best players in the world, but she got a second personal foul in the first quarter. So we were like, oh, we could get this, but Australia are a different class. I think I was doing the scout on them, and their worst player was shooting 65% from the field. So they're a pretty good shooting team, and they were tough. But it was just a great experience.
Talk about Northumbria a little bit. What's your official role with Northumbria?
Yeah, so my full-time job is recruitment and international recruitment and project manager, and it basically, I work obviously full-time for the university. We have a football company called I2I who deliver at York St John University, and their model is to recruit American athletes over to play soccer. I2I employ previous Premier League players who are coaches. So like John O'Gridding from Man United is one of the coaches down in York. We have Darren Williams, who's a great guy, and even though he is a Mackem and played 150 times for Sunderland and set up Kevin Phillips for the 2-1 win when Ruud Gullit got sacked for leaving Shearer on the bench, I don't mind him too much. He's our coach at Northumbria for our cohort, and so they have a really good model. And in the States, the soccer season lasts from maybe September till December, depending on how far you go through playoffs. So it's a shortened season. They have a lot of like NCAA rules for not just soccer, but for all sports, the amount of training you can do. Whereas in the UK, we really don't. So these kids come over and they'll train every day, play Bucks games on a Wednesday, play in the West Riding League on a weekend. So they get far much more soccer. The degrees are typically cheaper here than they are in the States. So even though we charge £31,500 a year to these kids, and that includes their accommodation, tuition, and the soccer element, and their Nike gear and all that. That's still way cheaper than they would pay in the States, and it's only 3 years. So that's pretty much my main job, is making sure the recruitment goes well, answering questions from parents. So I was just on the phone to a parent before this, and I'll be on the phone after this, just making sure. This is the busy time of year where they're trying to get their visas sorted and all that sort of stuff. So that's my main job. And then when I go over there, they do ID clinics, normally 6 till 9 at night. So when I'm over there during the day, I'll catch up with previous GB players that I've worked with, or players that are over there in schools that I have relationships with, to, you know, talk about the opportunities for basketball while I'm there. And obviously, so that's my full-time job. And then I have a .3 role as the basketball coach at Northumbria. And that's how the relationship for me works so well with Northumbria and the Eagles, because I get students or get players over who want to bet themselves, want to get a master's. And like, nothing against the league. I think the league, like the WBBL, has improved massively since it started, and that's a credit to the staff who work on it. Like Paul Nielsen does a great job of exposing it. You know, all these guys work hard, but it's still not a professional, viable option for players. You know, in Europe, even if you're in a second division, you're going to get housing, cars, and money, which we unfortunately don't have at the moment. And we were looking pretty good if COVID hadn't hit. The Eagles have done a great job marketing. Like Dan and Paul have really pushed it in that sense, but we still can't pay it. So for me, I say to these players, look, it's a stepping stone. You can get some good stats in a very well-respected league, and I want you to go and play in Europe. Like for example, Jules, Ali, Kalina's done that. Ev's done that. We've had lots of players who have gone off, like Chloe, Fiona. So Fiona left us after maybe not sure whether she wanted to continue playing. She left us to go to Italy, played 2 seasons there. Now she's played 2 seasons, gone back for a third in the top league in Spain. So that's what I really like to see, is that development. And hopefully we continue to develop, continue to be successful. And at some point we get a massive amount of money from sponsors, so it becomes a more viable option where we actually pull players from there, yeah. Or I win the Euro Millions, either or. I'll put the money in, no problem.
Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, the Eagles kind of took on the Team Northumbria elite team for the BBL.
That's right, yeah.
For you, what changed when that happened, or did anything change?
Nothing really. You know, Northumbria, so it was a tough one because everyone, I mean, especially because Northumbria had done so well in so many sports, but if we focus on men's and women's, so obviously Mark being the Division 1 coach, there was a lot of people saying, oh, you shouldn't go to Northumbria, they've done this, which was a shame, but it was right. So there was no more men's outlet because the Eagles have a Division 4 now, Division 3 team. So, you know, they're going to build that up to a Division 1 team at some point. So it didn't make a business sense, whereas for the women's, it was obviously a great business sense. The Eagles always wanted to take it over. However, and obviously, and I'm so thankful for the uni for having Team Northumbria, but it wasn't a priority to commercialize Team Northumbria women's basketball. It was an entity to recruit people, because without that, I said you probably wouldn't recruit as well. And that's the same for volleyball, football, water polo, and so on, which has seen a slight drop, not as bad as people would have thought, because we still have the exact same scholarship budget. So the scholarship budget remains the same. It was more the on costs, which they didn't want to, pay. So, I mean, I could be wrong in my figures, but for example, the Netball Super League team probably cost about £500,000 for the year. And that doesn't include the, the players. So, that cost is by far one of the biggest costs of teams, and they still run the same amount of netball, but they just took those costs out. So from a business point, I can see it, and from a student satisfaction point, I can understand why they did it too.
Great. What was like moving to the new arena? Because that was halfway through the first season, I think.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was brilliant. Like when we saw it, we because of all the players pretty much are based at the uni, we still train at the uni. Now, that'll probably change with COVID, because the university, a couple of the sports halls are being used as student space and teaching space, which again, a fantastic decision by the uni. If you've got 2,000 of our 16,000 students who engage in sport, then obviously the other 14,000 can use this study space. So I totally get that. And speaking with Paul, we're looking at what times we can utilize the arena, because again, they always have either private bookings or the academy that train in the evening. So, I want to get to a position where we can train during the day like the Eagles men. This year with COVID, we probably have a better chance, because teaching at the uni is going to look very different to how it previously did. But normally I couldn't do through the day, because depending on what masters or what classes people have, the timetables are all over the place in terms of whether you're an undergrad, postgrad, and what you're studying. So that was hard, but I think this year it will open that up. So, but when we did go and play at the arena, it was great that there was a couple of times the seating was on the other side, but then once everyone got into a routine and a rhythm, it was great. And we're so thankful for the fans. We have the best fans, like yourselves, and doing that walk with your fantastic family. That really keeps me going. And I know like people like Georgia and Jules and Rach and Ruth and everyone, they really value that. And I think what we have in Newcastle is something special, and the arena definitely helps like centralize all of that. And the staff they have there do a fantastic job. Like Les, Luke, Stu, all the guys who like volunteer every day to set that up. They do everything for our team, and we're just so thankful for that. And it's just great. I think the fact we can use both between the university, great strength and conditioning facilities, physio support, strength and conditioning support. We utilize all of that from university, and then we have the additions from the arena too. So for me, it's a win-win.
Mm. You mentioned Paul and Dan and kind of the work they've done for the WBBL team. How do you think we kind of continue to raise the profile of the team and kind of get more people along and kind of
yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think it's doing what we're currently doing. I think it's I suppose the hard, like Paul and Dan, we've had chats. We'd love more of our girls to go out for Hoops for Health, so I know Millie, Anya, and I believe Georgia did a lot of them last year. The problems can arise when people have classes, Tuesday, Wednesday, at those prime times, because, the men obviously don't have, typically, I mean, sort of Fab did his masters and Kai did a masters and so on, and Eddie's studying, but, most of them don't. So therefore they're getting paid to be an athlete, so they can be rolled out at any event that the Eagles need them to do. And of course, I imagine that they all want to do that. And I think that's the hardest thing for me to take, is that, you saw like they're probably Ruth and Rachel, the two of the only players we've got up here at the moment, and they came to support on Sunday, which was fantastic. And I know that all the players would want to do that if they had the time. Some of them most of my players have to work to earn a living. So, as much as they would like to go and do a 1 or 2 hour session in a school, they may have to turn down a 7-hour shift, which will bring in, unfortunately, more money, or they're in class. So like, I definitely want to be more involved in the community again. If I wasn't in work all the time, I would love to go out and just do assemblies, do whatever it is with players. I know the players are far more outreaching than seeing an old coach, but we definitely want to do that, and it's just trying to work out how we best do it. And I do believe it's going to be like baby steps, but if we did have a big sponsor who could support X amount of players, then that would help increase, because then we say, okay, like, you can study, but on these days you are doing this in the community, because that is part of your playing contract, if you like. And a couple of players I'm bringing in definitely want to be a part of that. A player I'm bringing in from Australia, she's mentioned that that's a big part of her, is the community side. She wants to give back. She's been fortunate in the country she's played in, so she's excited about that. And I think, I'm not belittling any of the men, but I really do think that the women do identify with that more and do want to give back, because they are balancing a career and a semi-professional playing.
School I work at get the Eagles in, so send them to my school. That'd be great.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we'll definitely do that. You tell us when it is. But I know all the girls definitely want to, for sure.
Let's have a look at last season then. On the whole, a very successful. Well, before it got kind of cancelled, it was kind of, the momentum was building, I think, for the season.
Yes. Yeah.
How would you feel it as a whole? How would you kind of describe the season as a whole?
Yeah, it was. No, it was definitely. It was really good. Like, I think we did well. I think, looking back, because I've had a lot of time to reflect, I think I could have done some things differently in training. I think game planning is I quite like my game planning. I think that is one of my strengths. Players may disagree, but I think, we could have done some different things, utilizing time. It's always easy to look back without without solid assistance all the time in training, because I had a great assistant in Gus, but he would play as well, so he played on our university team. So it was tough to get the difference there. So I think sometimes I can get carried away, and rotations can be tough. I definitely felt I was better this year at rotating. In previous years, I would ride 5 players for pretty much 39.9 minutes of the game. So sometimes that's one thing I look at. But overall, I was fairly happy. I think the players did a good job. They responded well. We had some really good team performances, and that was what I really did like. I think the ball sticks a little bit tight. The games we were playing better, we flowed better, we were moving better. The ball didn't stop moving. We were running like harder. Some games we found it hard to get into our offense. I think I've always been a better defensive coach. Mark's helped me a lot, Stootle, with implementing offenses and stuff like that. So that's one area during this COVID that I've been looking at to utilize. So it was still definitely successful, and we had a great team to do it. And it was probably one of my most favorite years working with the team. And I've said that year on year that some of my first early years, there was not the greatest of characters, and they weren't malicious by any means. But as you go through the game, you suddenly realize the sort of people you want to associate yourself with, and you can pick up different cues and so on. So, but it was definitely a very enjoyable season, that was for sure.
I think I've got here the first 14 games of the season. We only lost against Sevenoaks Suns 3 times, but we only lost against that team. Like, yeah. Can we write a letter to the league just to avoid them?
I know if we could have avoided them, I think we would have been in 2 finals, whether we win them or not. Because the way we were playing, I think were Durham in 2 finals? I think they were.
They were definitely in the trophy final, weren't they?
Yeah. So and they, Lee's a great coach, and they have like a really talented team. But we absolutely destroyed them the game that you guys came to down there. So you just think if you're on the other side of a draw, but that's sport. We had opportunity. So the first game against Sevenoaks was the pre-season. So Mante was injured. We had a pretty decent first half. We ran out of steam. It was used as pre-season, I suppose, for us. I don't really like that format. I think it's terrible, but I think the league's changed it now, which is good. But that was a tough game. And then I think I can't remember the second game. I don't know if it was a league. Oh, yeah, bless him. So I was away on my recruitment trip, and Stootle stepped in and coached against them at home, and he did an awesome job. And I think it was a 5-point game. There was a couple of things we talked about what could have done differently and all that sort of stuff. And then we played them just after Christmas. On the 4th of, I think it was 4th of January in the Cup or Trophy semi-final, and we lost by 6. Huh?
It was the 4th of January.
What was it? Yeah, 4th of January, and we lost by 6, I think. And we went 0 of 20 from the 3-point line, and we went 10 of 18 from the free throw line. So our game plan was good. The players did an excellent job, like defensively, what we needed to do. We just couldn't hit shots, and when we look back, or I look back at the threes, there was about 3 of the 20 that were contested, right. And then the other 17 were like the perfect decision. And Jules, Anya, Mante, everyone would normally hit 1 or of their shots, and if we'd hit 2 of the 20, it would be a tie game, different momentum going in. We missed some easy ones, so it's just one of those things. And credit to Sevenoaks, they did a great job. They were missing Tiani, who's a massive input, a massive factor for them. So everything was written for us to get to that final, but it didn't happen. And that was probably one of the hardest losses of the season. We knew what was at stake there, and we could have played. I think it was Durham in the trophy final, I think, actually. So we would have gone in there with a bit of confidence.
You mentioned Durham. Obviously, probably one of the games of the season. Kind of what went well in that game? What was the reason for that amazing performance?
Yeah, I mean, it was nothing I did. It was the player. Do you know what? I think it was the most dialed in we'd been. China, which was a great opportunity for us. I didn't want to stop her going. But at that point, it was quite early on, I think, and we'd had some really good training, some really good games. We were in great spirits. We were moving the ball well. And Durham are a great team, and they had Betsy and Dee and people who could really knock down the three. So we kept it pretty simple in terms of we were chasing on every. I think the game plan was super simple, saying, look, okay, if they beat us, they're going to beat us at the basket. 2 players try and score more than the rest of it. The 2 posts score, even though Cara's a fantastic player and Molly's a fantastic player, they weren't scoring as much as others. So we're okay, we want them to take the shots. We don't want these guys to get going. You've got to try and keep D in front of us because D's just a very tough player to guard. And, credit to everyone, Rachie B did a great job locking down Betsy. I think she went 0 of 11 or whatever from the 3. And then everyone for us stepped up. Our spacing was great in that game. I think Millie at halftime was 4 of 4 from the field. All the things, the way we want to play, the way we want to share the ball, the way we trust people offensively. They did that. People knocked down shots. Mante was great. She nearly had a triple-double. it was just one of those games where everything went my favor. I mean, Georgia, I think, had a 19 and 21 because she's just a beast, and she loves, like, Cara will challenge her for rebounding, and then Georgia goes, okay, I'll do this, and just it was a really enjoyable game to be a part of. It was fun from start to finish. We all had smiles, and that's why we play, and that's hopefully we can recreate that, like, all of next year for all our games. If we can win all our games by 27 and play that way, then I get the cigars out at Christmas, no problem.
What's your favourite road trip to go on with the team? Where's your favourite place to visit?
That's a good question, that one. I, I I don't know. I'm trying to think of the hotels we've stayed in or any decent breakfasts we've had. Or do you know what? They're all good. I mean, the thing is, and I said this before, like, you get better at reading people as we get older, but, like, in terms of coaching and style of playing, and, like, I just generally enjoyed spending time with all of them. So, like, it didn't really matter the journey. I'm just trying to think if there were any specific games that were they're all good fun. Like, they were such a good group to be around. It didn't bother me, and then I get a good night's sleep. I get an early night. I can watch Family Guy, order my Domino's. So I'm happy with wherever we stay. So no, they were all good fun. I can't pinpoint any, I'm afraid.
Looking at the next season, then, kind of, there's no official word of when it starts. How do you see it kind of starting? Do you see it mid-October, later? How
Yeah.
do you going?
So we had an email round from Andy Webb, who's the commissioner, who's done a great job, the commissioner from both the BBL and WBBL. And an email came around yesterday just with the team's preferences, because some teams, for example, like, if we were just based at a university, we won't have full access to sports halls because it's being used for academics. So that might be the same, for example, with a Durham, Essex, and Cardiff, because, again, they're university-based programs. But on the, I don't think it matters if I share it, but on the, like, sheet, most teams were pushing for a mid-October, a couple January, a couple late November, mid-November. So I honestly think that we'll start mid-October, and it could be a blended approach. Like, if there are teams that say we'll happily start then maybe we get some of those games out of the way early. Other teams start a little bit later. They might have more double headers. But there's a league meeting on Friday for 30 minutes, so it'll probably last 4 hours, and that'll be discussed, and we'll talk about that there.
You mentioned a bit about recruitment and kind of, are you happy with the way it's gone? It might be
Yeah,
different
I
this
mean,
corner and
yeah, no, I think that's one of the things. I've always been pretty good at recruiting players, so that's not been an issue. And then the last few days have been fairly fruitful, to be honest. So, like, but you never know. Like, it's always ups and downs. So I think if I can get the last two players in, well, one player's committed now, so that's great. So we're going to be a lot deeper. And if I can get this last person, well, there's two. There's one that's like a dream if we can get her back. So it's like someone coming back, someone coming in. So if we get those, we're going to be super talented, which makes it harder. I believe it makes it harder for a coach, because the more players you have that are of that, like, a really good standard, keeping them happy is obviously one thing, because everyone wants to play 40 minutes. But I would much rather have that trouble than having a reduced team and tough with training sessions, games, injuries. I'd rather have a bigger squad where we just say, look, this is our goal, and everyone buys into that, and that's what we do. So yeah, I'm excited to get back, especially if we can get these last two players over the line. That'll be brilliant.
so some silverware next season, yeah.
100%, yeah. I mean, we say that every year, but yeah, no, we would have won the league and the playoffs. I think every team knows that. But no, yeah, I definitely want to do that. Yeah, I definitely. The city deserve it, the fans deserve it, the players will deserve it. So, we're going to work our hardest to get some silverware.
One of the questions we had, if you could pick one player that you've coached in your coaching career to have on your kind of roster for next season, who would you pick?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm just trying to think of the people we've got coming in. Do you know what? Okay, so probably. Well, I'll be honest. I was trying to get Kennedy Leonard, who is a fantastic player from the States. She has a British passport. She played on an under 20s team with me, and she played at Colorado. Fantastic point guard, can shoot the ball. She's going to London Lions because they offered her stupid money. But I'm still hopeful we get her the next year, because I said she could live in my house and I'll give her a KFC once a week. So we'll see what happens there. But she would be good. But I think, like, we haven't had anyone who can knock down threes. Probably my own fault in recruitment. Like I have very good shooters, and I like to give the players confidence. But we've had no one that can consistently knock down threes since Chloe Bully. And Chloe plays in Germany now. She won a championship last year. Unfortunately, she tore her ACL at the beginning of this season, but she's going to be back at the same team. And she was a left-handed player, but she could shoot the absolute crap out of the ball. So I think, someone like that, I think I've missed that person who can just catch and shoot and like just knock it down. So potentially her, but it's there's so many players. Like I mean, Ali Gurel was one of the first people I like brought over, and just the way she is as a person, the way she is as a player, the way she wants to get completely invested in everything. She was a delight. Everyone from last season, if I could bring Jules and Gio back, that'd be phenomenal. I would do that in a heartbeat. But Gio's gone back to a much better climate, and Jules has got a professional contract. So I think they're both excelling in what they want to do. So yeah, I think it is so hard. In my head now, I'm thinking I want someone to knock down threes, but I know Rachie B can do it. I know Ruth can do it. So I just need them to shoot a bit more, and hopefully they'll knock them down.
As a coach of, say, Newcastle, like Leicester announced the signing of Holly Winterburn, and obviously London, like, do you look at those at the kind of start your scouting straight away, or do you wait until the full rosters are announced?
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that's a good question. No, I'd wait. I mean, I'd wait to see what they're like. Like Holly's a great player. She reached out because she wasn't sure what was happening with the virus. I would have done everything to have got her up here. She's one of the most talented players in the country, and definitely at her age. But Leicester's a good fit for her. She's played there before. They will pull out all the stops to get her there, to get her at the uni. So I don't think I could have, even compared to what they probably offered her. But yeah, I think you always keep an eye on like who's going where. I know some teams haven't announced, but I'm always pretty sneaky at finding out who's going where. So like I have a good idea of who's at which club. And to be honest, if the recruitment goes the way that we're supposed to, I'm not really too fussed about other teams. Like there's players that I definitely, would like need to focus in on. Like I said, Kennedy, who I think's joined us. So like Kennedy, I said you should have signed for us, and I said you could have my spare room in a KFC every week, but money talks, so you went to London. But there's definitely players in the league that we have to watch out for. But hopefully, with the team we have coming in, the focus is on us. It's gone a bit dead, I think. Can you still hear me?
Sorry, right. Sorted?
I think. Oh yeah, perfect.
Right. So quick fire questions, completely random, but go with it.
Okay.
Starbucks or Costa?
What's that again?
Starbucks or Costa?
Oh, Costa, 100%. Yeah.
KFC or McDonald's?
Oh, McDonald's, yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Winter or summer?
Summer, 100%.
Android or Apple?
Android. Forget Apple and iPhones now. It's all about Samsungs.
Favorite Netflix series?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think what I'm watching at the moment. I'm watching what am I watching? American Family or something. I don't know. But like I loved Suits, and I know that's so old, but I hadn't watched it, so I watched that, and it was brilliant. Yeah.
And what's your favorite basketball film?
Yeah, that's like. Do you know what I watched the other night and I loved it, and it made me want to get back out on the court? Was Coach Carter. So I hadn't seen it for years, but obviously a favorite one. I also, when I was younger, with Dave, who we used to go and play in the Hexham courts with, we'd watch He Got Game. So like, I don't know if many young people, well, you actually have to be over 18 because it's kind of one of those films, but it's a brilliant film. It's got Ray Allen and Denzel Washington, and that was one of my favorites.
Where would you go on a night out in Newcastle?
Well, most recently I've been going to the Time Bank Brewery and down at Oosburn because I'm old now. But like, I've been known to go out to a few of the Wednesday night student nights with the team because they know how to party. So yeah.
Do you watch the NBA, WNBA? If so, what team do you follow?
Yeah, no, I haven't actually watched any this year, and I know the playoffs have just started, and the league's obviously starting the WNBA, but I just used to love watching like San Antonio, the way they played. A big fan of Greg Popovich. I used to love watching Boston play, with their coaching. But I mean, I don't really watch too much, to be honest. I much I used to. I prefer watching like some of the EuroLeague games. If I want entertainment, I'll put the NBA on. That's for sure. Yeah, I hate Houston. I know D'Antoni's done a great job, and James Harden's a great player. But for me, I can't stand that style of play. It clearly works, and they do wonderful things with it. But for me as a coach, I just don't like it.
You mentioned recruitment being one of your kind of strong skills. What would you say your kind of standout skill was? Your as a coach?
Yeah, I would like to think getting people on the same page and playing together. Whether they like me or don't like me, I think they know what I want to create and the type of atmosphere I want to create, and it's been successful, over the years. And like I generally care about the team. I'll have 3 players with me this year because certain contracts didn't work out the way I wanted it to, and it's not their first choice, I'm sure, and it's but not my first choice. But I want them to be happy, and I want them to be able to continue to play for the Eagles and the university. So I think for me it's just probably that. I would like to say my passion and care for the team. Some players may disagree, but I'd like to think that's it.
If any of them on, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lying. Yeah.
Are you interested in any other sports?
Yeah, I love watching MMA. I did when I came back to Newcastle. I did like a lot of jiu-jitsu at the university. Actually, then I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu at a great club out in Wallsend with Speedy as my coach, and then some striking with a guy called James Watland, who was a world champion kickboxer. So I did quite a few jiu-jitsu tournaments, and I got like a bronze in some of them up at the Scottish Open, and then I did some MMA fights. And I went 4-2, and in my last one, so my friend Mark and some of the Northumbria guys came to watch some of my fights in South Shields, and I won those ones fairly quickly, so that was good fun. And then my last one, I got knocked out by a knee, so that was my last fight because I thought, what, I wasn't as big a fan of getting knocked out by a knee than all the winning. So MMA is probably my second sport that I love to watch and follow.
And what advice would you give to young coaches coming through?
Definitely like get to as many sessions as possible with different coaches. Like you can always learn from any coach. It doesn't matter. I think there's a massive stigma in the UK that people don't want to go to that person because they don't do that well, or that's a different club, so we can't go down there. And there's a lot. For me personally, I think there's too much of that in UK sport, and definitely in basketball. I'd happily learn from anyone. I remember I was doing interviews at Time Met for the basketball coaching job there when Mark left, and there was different people came in, and even if they weren't experienced coaches, some of the drills they were doing were really good. And I was saying, well, I can use that drill. Maybe, and I gave them feedback. Maybe you could have said this, or you could have done actually some teaching points. It's more than just setting up a drill. You can then coach it. But, I think you can learn from anyone. So it's just to immerse yourself in as many different coaching styles as possible, because not one is right. What works for me might not work for someone else. And I think that's the biggest thing, is just get out there, like knock on coaches' doors. If a coach doesn't want you in their training session, then that speaks volumes of their sessions and clubs. So, that every coach should be welcoming and wanting people to come and observe them and ask questions. So that's what I would suggest.
I said to Eva earlier, I said, I'm going to have a chat with Chris tonight. I said, what should I ask him? And this is her question. It's a normal question.
Okay.
What is it like being the head coach of the Eagles?
Oh, it's brilliant. Like I honestly couldn't think of anything better. Like I said, I think I've always thought of Newcastle as my home. When I moved back up to the northeast, I was supposed to play in Teesside for what was the Mohawks, do a masters and have some housing. And like my parents told me I should always get something written down, but naive and loving basketball, I said, no, that'll be fine. It didn't work out quite the way that I envisaged it, and I left a pretty good job down in Brighton. But Eagles had a job coming up that Stoughton had done, and they interviewed me and said, oh, we think, well, actually, I think they said my interview was terrible, but we'd like to give you an opportunity to do the job. So, I was really thankful for that, and I worked in the community, doing like the Leanings program, which was phenomenal. So from that point on, I always knew that I was going to be involved. I taught the under 13s, 14s, and we were very successful. We had undefeated seasons with some of the kids who are like coming back up, and they've actually graduated uni now. So I'm definitely a lot older than I was then. And it's just, to do it in a city where I'm very passionate about, and, people like yourself and, your daughters who come to games and do that fantastic fab. And, there's just so much I don't see. I mean, I'm sure that happens in other places. Cardiff do a good job. Oakland's do a good job. I mean, Caledonia do a good job because they're the only team in Scotland. But I generally think we do the best job of that, and I just love everything about it. So, as long as I'm here and hopefully win, and Paul's fairly happy with me, like I'd want to be the head coach for the Eagles as long as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question.
I kind of, you're very highly thought of, like every kind of person you talk to. So whether it be Mark Stootle or Jason messages the other day just saying, "Oh, make sure you tell him he's a great coach, a great guy," and he still wants that in mind.
Yeah. I'll get him the pint, no problem. Yeah, no excuses there. Like I love going for a pint, so that's no problem at all.
But yeah, very, very highly thought of. So I don't think there'll be an issue. Eagles coach for life.
Well, let's see. I would love to. I would love to do it, and I'd love to, do what Fab did. He had his people that said he, should do this. He should retire. Like people were saying that when I worked for them in 2009, and obviously it goes to show how fickle fans can be, and how good an organization is. And they go, no, we know that he is a winner, and I'd love to at some point take over the reins from the Seven Oaks being the most dominant team, and we start winning some silverware, and we do it year on year, and people want to come here, and like your daughters in probably 10 years time be on the court and playing for us. That's what we want. We want more homegrown people like your Ruths, like your Rach, like your Oris. I'm going to classify Millie as a Geordie, even though she's from Yorkshire. She's been Geordie, and people like Millie. I did the 5-star camps when I was younger in Leeds, so I think I met her when she was maybe 11. And she was a great player then. I think she was on my camp teams, and we won, and she hit some shots. So, stayed in contact with her and her family. And she fortunately chose to come up here. So, I just love to have more British players coming through.
Right, I'll finish on this question, two-part question.
Okay.
What would you say to like an Eagle fan who kind of maybe season ticket holder at the men's game or goes to the men's game, never been to one of the women's games before? What would you say to them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to have that one. I think there were plans if we had, there's a supporters end of meal dinner for the male team, and we got invited last year as a group, and I really wanted to stay, but it was my night to have Kai, so I couldn't stay too late, unfortunately. But we were, I wanted to stay, and I think at that time Noelia, who played for us, wanted to say, like, if all of you came to the game, then it would actually fund us to be able to recruit better, pay some players, put players in housing, all this sort of stuff. So I think the game is the same, and the Eagles do such a great job on the men's day match night because of the numbers there, that I know we can recreate that. And people think, oh, it's women's sport, it won't be as good. And the quality of players we have from local to Europeans, you take Mante and Lisa. Like coaches can't believe that they came to us, and we're so thankful to have them because they played in the highest level for their country. Mante still plays for Lithuania. Lisa played for Germany for that many years, and they played in the highest level of European Cup competitions. And they're here, so the style. I mean, you guys have seen it, but the basketball is basketball, and if anything, it has to be a little more technical at the women's level because we don't have all the super athleticism. Of course, we have some good athletes in our league and in our team. But then the X's and O's in my mind have to be better because, there's more, you have to set a bang on dead screen to get this shot away, because if you don't, we probably won't get a shot. Whereas in the men's game, you can maybe not do it and athleticism will play out and you can jump over anyway. So, I think the game is a beautiful game. And I think, we should support our female players just as much as our men's. And I think if people tried it, they would realize how good it is. And how passionate the fans that come down are, and how more involved the girls get after the game. They really try and stay involved and stay in touch with like your daughters or the fans that come, because it's a part of their weekend.
I mean, I know after Saturday, Eva said, "Do you know when we go? Can we make sure we sit front row, please?"
Oh, bless. Oh, quality.
So they're ready to come. They're ready to.
Brilliant.
So no, Chris, I really appreciate your time. And I'm sure we'll kind of catch up as the season progresses, hopefully progresses.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I'll keep an eye out for those signing announcements.
Definitely, yeah, we'll definitely do that. And I really appreciate everything you've done, to have this WBBL week. I know myself and the club and the players have absolutely loved it. So, I really, really do appreciate it. And what we'll do, if you're happy to do it, is when we get the signings announced, I need to get back to Simon Rushworth because he has been pestering me for that. We'll see when they're announced, and then we can get an interview with them if you fancy doing that with all the players. Yeah, perfect, brilliant.
Right, thank you very much.
All right, cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.